tonight we're back at a much calmer Lamport Stadium after the chaos involving homeless advocates and Toronto police yesterday. The confrontation that took place was forceful, involved physical altercations, multiple arrests. Many have said it was violent and excessive and are now calling for a review into what took place.
Many people could argue what they saw in those videos did not entail the least amount of force required to enact their duties in that situation here. When you have videos of officers shoving groups of people to the ground, dragging people, using batons, using pepper sprays.
Questions over how best to handle encampments and providing other places to go have made way for debate about the actions of police in removing them and protesters from public spaces.
From a human being level, it is really hard to watch. It was really hard to see. I think from a policy perspective, it's hard to see the benefit in any which way that has come from this and will come from such an approach.
The homeless encampment at Lamport Stadium housed on estimate about a dozen people. More showed up in support when the push went from simply asking them to leave to officers lining up and taking them down.
Some of the force seems a little too much, a little excessive in some, with people being dragged, pushing non-violent, the people who were standing in the line, all of the officers pushing them down and then kind of proceeding to keep throwing them around. I mean, to the average layperson, that might seem extremely excessive.
Police say protesters were refusing to comply with direction before the altercations began. 26 arrests were made for assault, obstruction, and trespassing. Out of the 26, police say 25 were not living at the encampment. In a statement, they say due to the dynamic situation, resources from other areas of the city were deployed to ensure the safety of everyone at the site and the wider public. As a last resort, and in partnership with the city staff, officers carried out enforcement, responding proportionately and using minimal force.
The difference between, say, the one that happened on Tuesday and the one that happened on Wednesday in Alexandra Park versus Lamport Stadium is that on Tuesday there weren't protesters present, or there were very few. Yesterday, the protesters decided they were going to have a confrontation with the police, and so they did.
The question over who's responsible, police or protesters, can be answered with evidence captured. But does it keep confrontations like this from happening again?
I think there needs to be an investigation, certainly an independent review of what happened in these situations, and in general, the police and the city's responses to these encampments, the use of police in these situations, and the tactics and use of force.
So Toronto police tell me all large events are discussed afterwards to determine if any changes are needed for future events. That doesn't necessarily mean a full review will be taking place. So when we reached out to the Office of Independent Police Review Director, we were told no formal complaints about this or other recent encampment clearings have actually been made.